Hello, welcome to All For United WSC. The Lionesses kick off with a winning ways. It was similar to the Euros last year. It wasn't the most convincing performance, but a 1-0 victory all the same. So we're going to get into all that. There's a few people in the comments already talking about Mary Earps. Obviously, we're going to talk about her. We're going to talk about the striking situation. Obviously, that was a big debate with Daily England and Russo being the options. Talk about that. Obviously, the penalty and how good Haiti were, to be fair, because I don't know whether they necessarily shocked people, but they're certainly better than I think people gave them credit for going into this. So we'll talk about that as well as we go over this for the next however long this goes on for. I will put a player of the match poll in the chat, as obviously if you're new to the channel or if you've watched the channel before, you know that we always do those for match reactions. So 4 names that we have chosen, we'll go into the chat. Make sure you vote on that, and we'll come back towards that at the end of the show. Right, so I'll start pretty much right at the beginning, starting with yourself, Mia. The starting 11 obviously came out. There was 2, I guess, areas where people looked at and thought there's question marks. A good 8 or 9 of the players were pretty nailed on, but the striker position and that kind of left side of defence, I guess, was where the questions were. Were you surprised? Were you happy with that lineup? What was your kind of thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I wanted Rachel Daly to start. I think her statistics and the way that she played this season spoke volumes. I think it spoke for itself. She obviously didn't get that nod to start, and Russo is a good striker, no taking that away from her. And then the left side, I was hoping she was going to put Carter on the width and then Greenwood in the middle, play that sort of ball-playing centre back that she's been doing so well for Man City. But that's not how it panned out. And, we struggled a little bit in that defence. For that reason, I think I'd like to think that was a simple change that she could have made, but didn't. I think Jess Carter and Millie Bright are awfully similar in how they play. And you miss Leah Williamson, who's by far the best ball-playing centre-back in the league and potentially the world. You need to replace that because we play differently when that's not available. So yeah, that was my initial thoughts. It didn't pan out how I wanted it to pan out, but it's one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, Graham, would you tend to agree with that one, unless you don't want to add any other areas into where you think that the question marks were? I think those were the main 2, I guess, positions where you could think of some changes.
I think the game felt very much like England at a major tournament, be it men or women, didn't it? Just like one game and panic, like instantly. Like I was at the Austria game last year. You see most people on this call were because of the venue it was at. We were really quite awful, and Austria probably could have got a draw out of it. I felt similar today. We look like we're in pre-season because we kind of are. Some of the players that are not shining that well are probably knackered. I kind of agree with the positions themselves. I think the Russo thing's interesting because before the game I would have said no, stick with Russo, because I think we play with so much width. And I think what Russo does and why Russo gets picked ahead of Daly and ahead of Beth England is you've got Lauren James, you've got Chloe Kelly, you've got Lauren Hemp on your wings, arguably, 3 of the best sort of wing forwards, if you prefer. And she can hold the ball up better than the other 2 strikers I've just mentioned, and she can sort of lay that on and whatnot. But I've got to be honest and say that I think after the game, which is wonderful, it's always great, isn't it, having 20/20 hindsight, I just think Rachel Daly looks more confident, and something's not quite right with Alessia Russo at the moment in terms of in front of goal. Everyone knows how highly I rate Alessia Russo, so like I'm not writing her off in any way, shape, size, or form. It's just England have such a luxury of talent up top. I mean, imagine Beth England being your 3rd striker. Like, Beth England is so good. And I don't think she should be counted out of the argument. But I just think at the minute, whilst we're able to chop and change a little bit, and you might have to do this game by game rather than kind of, does Daly go up front, does Russo go up front? Maybe you go game by game and look at the opponent. But I do think you've got to look at Daly and maybe give her a shot. I'll sort of double down on what Maya was saying before as well regarding Jess Carter. I don't get Jess Carter at centre-half ahead of Greenwood. If anything, Greenwood's maybe even more suited to playing in that position than Leah Williamson is because she's left-footed. So it just gives us so much more balance, and we didn't look like we had balance today. For me, Niamh Charles or Jess Carter fit in okay at left-back. I was going to say Rachel Daly there, but no one obviously believes that. Rachel Daly is not a left-back. But I just think I kind of echo what Maya said there, to be completely honest with you. Maya, sorry, I've got that wrong, haven't I? Said Maya, and it's Mia, isn't it? fantastic. Well done, G. Amazing. I knew I was going to do that. But like, to be honest, I think I understand the Russo choice, but she snatched at that chance, didn't she, in the first half? And I think that kind of sums up with the minute. I think with the move and with everything that's gone on, which I won't go too in depth on a Man United channel, I just think it's probably an eagerness to impress when I think Russo just needs to do what she does normally. I would play Rachel Daly. I think you've got more confident striker there personally, and don't count Beth England out of that conversation either.
Yeah, I don't know what Beth England's got to do to get a start, or just some minutes, to be honest. But we'll get back to that when we talk about the kind of subs and the striker positions. I can see that, Michael, your comment about James, I want to come back to her a bit later on as well. Laura, for yourself, obviously we spoke last week on what we wanted to see. 2 weeks ago it was when we spoke about kind of what we wanted to see from a Lioness 11. I can't remember who we went for. We did go Greenwood at left centre, didn't we? And we went for Daly at
Greenwood in the middle.
So we went the complete opposite to what Serena chose. So were you surprised by that? Were you happy with that lineup? How did you kind of feel about it?
I was surprised. I thought, I mean, obviously, as we chose, I'd have preferred Greenwood left centre back, and I think exactly the points that Mia was making, that kind of ability on the ball to play it forward, I think, and like a ball playing defender and someone who's willing to kind of make those runs into the middle to kind of support Kira Walsh, because I think what happens is Kira Walsh is no longer like not that she was unknown before, but I don't think her quality was appreciated by opposition. I think now she gets marked out of the game, and she still did really well. But I think someone like Leah Williamson who can take that ball into midfield, and then you're forcing those people who are marking Kira Walsh to make the decision of, do I press and close down Leah Williamson and block off one of her passes, or do I stay with Kira Walsh and keep her out of the game? But at the moment, we just got two centre-backs who kind of stay where they are, whereas I think Alex Greenwood would add that, or have the potential to add that a little bit more. But I do think in defence, I think the tactics will change against different opposition. I think, we looked exposed today, but maybe that's how we set up to play Haiti, and against different opposition, that's not going to be the same. Up front, I expected Daly, but I think I'm not completely concerned. I think what we're seeing more and more in football is that the starters and the finishers have their own roles. And if Daly can play the role that Russo did last year, and Russo plays the Ellen White role of, we knew it was going to be a low block against Haiti, and Russo probably is most effective on paper against a low block, exactly what Graham was saying in terms of holding it up, laying it off. I don't think that was an unsensible choice today from Serena. And I think having the kind of ability against tired legs, Haiti didn't make that many changes. They stuck with their starting 11. With the end of that game, with those legs getting tired, I don't think that's the end of the world if Daly's coming on to run them ragged at the end. And she does look more exciting at the moment, but if Russo has a role to play, even if it's not necessarily banging in loads of goals, I'm not too concerned with that, as long as there's use and we do end up getting goals eventually.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I do remember the comments last week, and to be fair, I think Vic was on here and said her dark horse was Haiti, and obviously we all laughed at the time, and everyone in the comments said, "Nah, don't be silly." Like I said at the start of this, I think they certainly surprise of you. We're going to get to the kind of physicality of it in just a bit as well. TJ, obviously a regular from the US, so I know that you're going to be very happy with your win in the early hours of this morning our time. So. Congrats on that one. USA certainly looking pretty strong already. But we'll cover that a bit more on Monday, actually. Mia, back to yourself then. The England first half, because I think it was a weird old weird old game. The first half was a bit hit and miss. Obviously, a couple of little chances in. Obviously, the penalty came within that. We'll talk about that as a separate point. But what do you make of England's kind of start? Because it was certainly some nerves and a bit of shaky moments, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was a bit nerve-wracking, I assume, for them. It's the first game of the tournament. A lot of them, to be fair, haven't been to a World Cup before. They've done the Euros, but a World Cup's a different ballgame. So there's that, and that's to be expected. But I think both sides as well were really erratic. It took them a good 10-15 minutes to just calm down and play properly. There was a lot of sort of long balls, a lot of touches that were off. There was a lot of just general erratic play that you don't expect from this Serena Wiegmann side. It was not an easy watch first half. It was, I mentioned beforehand, it was a frustrating watch. They did all the hard work and something let them down, a skew ball, a bad, as I say, a bad touch, bad passing, a sliced shot. But there's only so much that you can blame on the first game. There's only so much you can blame on the fact that most of them are inexperienced. I just think hopefully we're only going to improve from here.
It's just mentioned obviously this coming there. Still reading about obviously Letitia. Yeah, I tweeted that earlier. We'll get to the defence in just a short while. And welcome back. Actually, I've not seen you in the chat for a long time. So welcome back to the stream. Anson's coming in. His team kept the ball for. I think that's a story of the tournament. Again, we'll talk about it tomorrow on Monday. But I think no team for me is, apart from Spain, have really kept the ball that well, to be honest. Graham, for yourself, what do you make of that first half? Like I said, penalty aside, because we'll cover that in a separate bit in a second. But what do you make of England's kind of start? Because, it's first game. It's been the same for most teams. But what do you make of it from your point of view?
I think it's interesting, isn't it, when you read through kind of the comments from everyone, really, that England were essentially poor. No play really shone. Mary Earps was kind of the saviour at the end. And it's sort of hard to disagree with that, but then you've also got people discussing how well Haiti played, how good, I'm always pronouncing her name incorrectly, Demunier, how good she was, and how good Haiti were, how they surprised people, how they should have probably got a draw. And I think in reality, there's probably a bit of truth in the middle. England weren't at the level that they can play, and Haiti were a lot better than a lot of people expected. I've seen some people saying 8-0, and I'm like, you've obviously never, ever watched football in your life if you think that's going to be 8-0, because Haiti have got some really good players. I mean, Demunier is such a good player. For me, how she didn't get player of the match is a little bit baffling. Stanway got it. I thought Stanway was one of the better of the few, and obviously she scored the penalty, but if you're telling me that Demunier is not the best player on that pitch today, then I don't know what game you're watching, if I'm completely honest. Although I suppose it is subjective, but it was just sluggish, wasn't it? I think I thought Millie Bright looked really, really, really rusty, but the way you make her not rusty is by playing games and getting it out of your system. I think it'll be quite interesting when you look at the side that England played against Austria. That never changed all the way up till the Germany game in the Euros. I'd be really surprised if that didn't change now. Because I don't know, for me, I really like Jess Carter. I think she's really consistent. I think she's one of those players that does a real good job. And obviously she plays for Chelsea regularly, and Chelsea win stuff all the time. So she's obviously decent. I think the same with Niamh Charles, but I just think she's not the centre half to put alongside Millie Bright, and I didn't quite understand that one. And I think that will change. I think Alex Greenwood will go back there. I know people don't, she's only 19, that's a joke. But one thing I wanted to kind of raise about this, since I'm on a United channel here, Demunier, amazing, 19 years old. Leon snapped her up before the tournament. Now, imagine if they didn't. How many people would be after her right now? Now, when we're discussing WSL clubs and the signings, you got to wonder why a lot of these clubs are sitting waiting, such as Manchester United, till the World Cup is finished, when these players could potentially be worth a lot more money, which kind of shows you why Leon snapped her up. Leon, a forward-thinking club, they snapped the player up. Who's obviously going to be world-class, and she looked world-class today, to be fair. I'm sure there's a bit more time to go, but I just think with England, obviously, to answer your question, I think it was sluggish. I think it was slow. I think it'll change. We've tried not to concentrate on the injuries, and that been a big one for being look, get on with it. Leah and Beth are not there. Fran's not there. But I think for me, the biggest miss out of all of them, and we haven't even touched on it, yes, Fran Kirby. I hate to say this in the United channel, but Fran Kirby is a better player than Ella Toone because she's got much more experience in major tournaments and has won more than Ella Toone, and you can't just inject in experience in Ella Toone. You can't be like, oh, right, okay, you might be as good as Fran Kirby, but we'll give you the 8 years experience injected in your arm before you get the tournament. Not going to happen. And I just think when it comes to creating chances, Fran Kirby is much better at it. Ella Toone doesn't look right to me at the minute, and I think it's just down to she's knackered. I just think it's down to that. She's still a young kid, well, in comparison to me, but she's still very, very young. She's still learning the game. She's still got room to grow. She's a great little player. She's got a great attitude, great tenacity, but I just think she looks like she's blown out of her arse a bit. Pardon my French.
Yeah, to be honest, if there's a United fan saying that Tooney is better than Frank Kirby, I think we'd probably be looking at them going, really?
They'd be wrong, unfortunately.
when they're both fully fit, that's for sure. Yeah, Fran's an unbelievable footballer, that is.
Is there an argument for bringing Jordan Nobbs in? I know it's a United channel, but is there an argument because why would you not put Jordan Nobbs as the alternative option? So why no?
I don't know. I'll throw it to you, Laura, if you want to answer the original question, obviously about the first half and that one that Graham's just raised. I'm not sure an answer, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Nobbs has gone through my mind after that match. It's kind of like, because I was kind of thinking about it, like, who are the other options? Because Ella Toone doesn't look up to it. And I've not been convinced by starting Lauren James. I think she's an excellent substitute option at the moment, experience-wise. But I was like, I just don't think after that performance you can have the opinion that Ella Toone is going to... I just don't think she's performed well enough recently, and I don't think she's stepped up when it's come to the tournament. I don't think she performed that well in I want to say pre-season friendlies, but the warm-up matches, the friendlies before the tournament, and I think that's continued. I just think, tired, lacking that confidence that we saw in the Euros last year, and I think even if it's just for a few games to allow her to settle, I think we need an alternative option. And do you bring Lauren James in? But I also think she has similar problems of confidence, experience. If she's starting, we've seen that with Chelsea in the big game. She hasn't always turned up in that number 10 position. So, yeah, I mean, Jordan Nobbs was my next option. And do you go to something that looks more like a 4-3-3? Because obviously Jordan Nobbs operates number 10, number 8, slightly deeper potentially. I don't know. I don't think Serena Wiegman will do that. I think she likes her kind of routine a bit too much, but I think it's definitely an option. In terms of the first half, I mean, just repeat the sentiments. I just don't think it clicked. It felt like all those final balls just weren't finding their targets. They all felt a bit... I know there's things that jumped to mind. It's just like Stanway's just passing wasn't there. It wasn't going straight to the feet. It wasn't going just ahead of the players where you want it. The crosses were too near the keeper constantly, or they were going too high, or they were getting cut out. There wasn't any of those balls that you kind of got used to in the Euros where they were reading each other's game. And I do think that's partly just first game. This team hasn't played a lot of tournament football together. And I don't think that's something that we necessarily need to be like, oh my God, England are going to do rubbish because of this. But I do think we look further behind where I thought we looked when we played Austria last year. I think Austria felt frustrating. It felt like we weren't able to break them down, but it didn't feel quite as not clicking as this, to put it not very eloquently. Today just felt like there was still quite a long way to go. And I think we're going to not struggle to get out the group, but we're going to struggle to through the group stage, in that we'll still be kind of going through those processes of getting together throughout this whole group stage. And potentially, we will see some forced changes from Serena, or some trying to answer some more questions, because I think you can look at the Austria game, or you can look at that group stages that kind of from the Euros and go, they didn't feel like there was any like, oh, this is a major problem. Whereas I do think today there was things where I was thinking, this can't kind of continue. What I was hoping would happen is we'd score, we'd get that penalty, and the kind of floodgates would open, we'd get our confidence back. And I was really pleased when we got that penalty, because it's sometimes that goal that you need just to kick you into confidence, kick you into action. And that didn't seem to happen. And I think that was the major worry for me.
There was, especially in that left-hand side, the kind of Greenwood-Carter side, for me, it just seemed to get targeted a lot on the break. Obviously, that was clearly a plan, certainly in that first half. It switched up a little bit in the second half from a defensive point of view. But I think there was just too many... I was watching it, and I was going to say to somebody at the time, a better team would tear that back line apart. Because if that's against a USA or a Germany or somebody, if that, Brazil, for whoever, that there's easily 1 or 2 goals conceded from an England point of view in that first half because there was so much. It was bizarre, as you said. Like a lot of people have referenced that first game of the Euros last year, but yes, that in some sense they're exactly the same. Both 1-0 wins, both tight games, and so on. But I think there's a difference when you look at the type of performance in amongst it. Obviously, different type of players as well, and a less experience in the squad. So I'm not massively convinced. But I will say, as I said to these guys before we went live, I've not been convinced by a lot of nations already in their opening game. So I don't think it's a massive concern yet, because I don't think anyone has really hit the full heights yet of what they're capable of. There's certainly a lot to digest. But yeah, sorry, Graham, I know you want to jump in. As well.
It was just devil's advocate. I always like doing that, and I think there was because I heard a few people going like, "Oh God, what if this was against Germany? What if this was against Spain or whoever?" and stuff like that. And obviously, I totally get that. But there's 2 sort of points I would put with it. Germany probably felt the same after Zambia absolutely destroyed their backline, and Zambia got absolutely tonked today by Japan. They only got beat by that many goals because I tipped Zambia to qualify ahead of Japan to the knockout stages. So thanks for that, Zambia. I really appreciate you making me look like I know what I'm talking about. But I also think like the camp as well. I think the Lionesses camp is really good. And I think just to kind of chuck a bit of positivity in there, I do feel like there's a strength in adversity that exists within that camp. And I think, you go back to the Spain game last year when we were 1-0 down with about 10 minutes ago, and Ella Toon scored and obviously went on a win with Georgia Stanway scoring. But I know some of those big characters, Jill Scott, the biggest character of the lot. I'm always to blame. And for everything wrong in your life, TJ Trex, I'm to blame. No, I don't mean that. I'm really not. I hope not, God. But I just think, on England's team spirit, I think it's really good, and I think it's probably better than we give it credit for. I know it's lost big characters and experienced characters in Fran, Jill Scott, Ellen White, obviously Leah. There's 4 really big sort of characters in the team, but there's a lot of big characters there as well. I think Lucy Bronze is a really obviously big character. Mary Earps is a huge character. Ella Toon is a massive character, maybe in a different way. She maybe brings the lighter side to it, and I think we'd be wrong if we thought that the Lionesses went back and went, oh, well, thank God it's to win. They'll be going back on what can we improve on? Like, how can we get better than that? That wasn't our standard. We know we can do better than that. Let's look through it. Let's move on, but let's also at the same time improve on what we can do. And I think we've got some really good characters in that dressing room. Really, really good characters in that dressing room. And I think it would be wrong not to remember that, which will be really important, not just in the group stage of the next game, like throughout the tournament. There's absolutely no reason we still can't win it, if I'm going to be really positive. Like, I don't fear any team still, despite the fact that we didn't have a great performance. I still have no fear.
It's an interesting chat. There's a lot of comments I kind of want to...
Fight and talk, Connor. It's fight and talk. That's what it is.
Yeah, well, you've got to be confident when you're going into each game, because otherwise, why are we watching?
Exactly. No, we won the last major tournament. Why not?
Sorry, I got the...
Does he mean me?
I don't know.
I'll take it. Like, I'm nearly 40. If I still look like Justin Bieber, mate, which high five, RC, whatever your name might really be. I don't know. Richard Charles, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
It's definitely not, and he's also hijacking because he knows that I'm not a Lewis Hamilton fan either, and he has just clicked poles, which is really frustrating for me.
I don't like cars. Can't drive them. No point in them. Vroom. Pointless.
Gabriella's mentioning Blundell again. Yeah, another good shout that would have filled in on that left-hand side. Speaking of, we'll come back to a bit of those in just a second. Obviously, we'll just briefly touch on the penalty. I'll go around the house and just kind of quickly on this. Right decision? Is everyone in agreement that this was a penalty? I mean, looking at it, it's not as clear as, because I missed it at the time, and everyone said, "Oh yeah, Stonewall that is." And when I was watching it back, I was like, "Is it?" Obviously, hands are ridiculously high in the air, but I don't know. Mia, come to yourself first. Correct decision? Is it?
Absolutely, 100%. As they're going through those slow-mos and she's got her hands in the air, I was watching the game with someone that's never played football in their life, only watches like the finals of like England games. Picked up on it straight away. Rule 101, when you jump for a ball, you don't put your hands up. She was stretching, like the still is like she's playing volleyball. So yeah, absolutely, 100% penalty. I think also the penalty that was scratched off, or that was sort of, I think Russo was fouled someone in the build-up, that should have been a red card offence. Chloe Kelly's shin, she had shin pads on and still had a scratch all the way down her leg. I don't know how that happened. You know, in another game that would have been a broken leg. So yeah, that's my opinions on those two.
I was just googling. I was literally just googling Justin Bieber's brother to find out, because I don't know. I don't know what he looks like or anything else. So I kind of just having a look. Either way, I don't get the reference.
He's very handsome. I mean, I've got to be older than Justin Bieber, to be fair. He's 12. I wouldn't be allowed on this show if I wasn't his older brother. I'm 21. Thank you very much. And I'm thriving at 21.
Certainly. I mean, it's the first time Rob's been back in the comments for about a month, and he's already putting me on. But carry on, please do keep commenting on the show.
Yeah.
Who's got the? I'm assuming that's you, Graham, with the sirens in the background.
It is, yeah. It's the police coming for RC. Yes. I've called the police. They're on the way. I know. It's like, look, let's be honest. Considering I'm close to 40, that's a great mop.
I'm surprised not started on my hair yet. Mine needs cutting as well at some point in the next week or so, because I'm in danger of growing a mountain.
Losing the Elvis.
Yeah.
What were we talking about? Penalties?
The penalty, yes.
Yes,
obviously,
penalties.
And also the other one before that, obviously, that what Mia just mentioned there about the one on Kelly as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a red card, because at first I didn't notice anything. I was like, oh, what's that? And then obviously they go back to VAR and they look at stuff, and I looked at it and I was like, hang on, that's definitely a penalty, and that's 100% a red card. So she booked it and didn't give the penalty. I think, when you look at the foul from Russo, which ultimately made it not be allowed. I mean, if that's a foul, how many penalties were given away a day? Because it's a bit clumsy, but she hasn't tripped her over or fought her or punched her in the face or anything like that. She hasn't obstructed her. It's do you know when you accidentally nearly walk into someone in town and you go, oh, sorry, and you kind of walk around because you're too invested in your phone? It was less than that. Whereas Chloe Kelly's was I don't think the girl intended it from Haiti, but she did kind of hammer down on her ankle, which could have quite easily broke it. The second one at first, my original debate over it was, has it actually touched her hand? Because, I mean, she went like that. Looked like she was going swimming. Michael Phelps. But, I think when you look at it, it clips her fingers, doesn't it? And then if it touches her fingers, inches like that. I mean, look, she was that high up, you can't even see my hands. It was a joke. Yeah, 100%. Definitely a penalty. And I'm really annoyed, actually, because I said, I don't know if anyone's seen it today on my Twitter, if anyone follows me, but it's often said I don't know much about football. But I actually pretty much called the game today to a T. The only thing that was missing was I said 2-0 with Rachel Daly scoring late on. I said Stanway would score penalty early doors. I said it would be a tough game. I commented on Demonier having a really good, thinking she'll have a really good performance and be a really good tournament. So for the first time in my life, I actually got almost everything correct. So near yet so far.
Which is, how dare you say that Bon Matthew is a good footballer? You got roasted for that yesterday.
That was, yeah, wow.
Graceful that is.
Don't say that Bon Matthew is the best footballer in the world, because you'll have 50% of people telling you that, duh, of course, mate. And another 50% saying, how you dare disrespect Patea? She's been injured for a year. I know she's been injured for a year. My point was, I feel like Bon Matthew is the best footballer in the world, period, no matter who's injured or not. I'm aware Pateas will not win the Ballon d'Or, and it's pretty obvious that Bon Matthew probably will. But the reason that Pateas won't win it is because, obviously, she's been injured, which I understand. But if you take away the Ballon d'Or, we'll all understand and all have our own opinions on who is the best player in the world, and mine is that it's Bon Matthew. Some others would say Pateas, and that's a reasonable debate, but I would still disagree, just for those still in doubt.
I was going to say, you certainly triggered a certain fan base yesterday. That was quite something. There's all kinds of... Sorry, Don, before I come to yourself on this one. So Jennifer was very kindly saying, keep your hair, it will soon be gone. And the poor guy's not even here. And Rob's straight in there as gone as Barry's. He's not even here. And he's getting roasted. I can't believe this. So I have just forwarded that on to him. So let's see what he says on that one. But Laura, for yourself, anything to add on the I guess the two penalty shouts, the one obviously that was given and the one that wasn't, because of obviously the Russo foul in the build-up.
Yeah, absolutely a penalty for me. The one that was given, hands in an unnatural position. Like, yeah, absolutely in the rule book. That's what it is. I think I saw someone on Twitter say like we only won because one of the players decided to go into a netball era, which I thought was quite a good representation of it. Yeah, and then the other one, I thought it was the right call. I think, yeah, there's definitely a red card shout in there for the foul that occurred. But I do think, I don't know, I think it's a hard one because I think it's one of those ones where if that was at the other end, it would be, I'd say, like really soft penalty if Russo had made that foul in the other box. But wrongly or rightly, I think different standards are applied from if it's going to be a penalty or if it's just going to be a foul. And in fairness, I think she tripped her enough that she was late into the tackle that caused the foul for the penalty. I think it's a really hard one to judge. And at the time, it was like stone cold penalty. Having looked back, I don't know. I think it could go either way, and when it's like that, it's pretty harsh to give a penalty for it as well. Like, I think if we were on the receiving end and someone had tripped our player into the in the build up to a tackle they made late, I'd be pretty annoyed if the penalty was given. So I think overall the right call, but yeah, the yellow could have easily been upgraded to a red for that one. Pretty much agree with everyone.
No, that's fair points. Yeah, when you look at it, and it always looks worse with a still image anyway. When you look back at, obviously, this is the one that wasn't given, the tackle on Kelly. I think when you look at it as a still image, it looks worse. It still looks bad in full speed as well, but I think it just makes it look worse when you see images go around Twitter or whatever it is of a tackle. That's for sure. Obviously, we know I don't think we need to analyse the penalty. Obviously, I had to take it twice. It was a good. It was another one of those where I was tweeting somebody last night and they were like, yeah, Stanway's going to show everyone how to take penalties. And then obviously she missed. And I was like, straight away, I was in there in the DMs going, oh my, we've jinxed it. Look at what we've done, obviously. But yeah, keep her off the line. I think the thing to focus on, I guess, is Mia, I'll come right to yourself and Graham and Laura just follow in on it. It's just the mental, side of it. The fact Stanway stepped up again, straight after to take it and scored obviously the second one. So just from that point of view, two pretty good penalties. It was a good save obviously on the first one, but obviously keep her off the line. But that kind of, I guess, mental ability to go, well, I'll step up again, put it in the same place and score this time.
The audacity for her to do that is through the roof, first and foremost. But fair play to her, because that would throw me off. I was expecting someone else to take it. I was expecting her to go elsewhere in terms of, where she'd put it. We might have a dog on the screen. But yeah, I'm glad that she just threw me off. I'm glad that she scored. And yeah, Haiti kept on well. Didn't automatically think that she was off her line, so I panicked initially because I thought, we're not going to score today. It just wasn't our day. So yeah, thank God we got to take it again. Yeah.
What does the dog think of the penalty? Just out of it.
The dog has been sitting like that watching the TV all day. He's been really involved. Thrilled, as you can see.
In a bit of a woof moment.
Very good.
That's a Barry one. That is, Graham. Come on.
With Barry joke with more hair.
Someone had to fill in. Graham, Laura, anything to add on? Obviously, the Stanway. Obviously, had to take it again, but stepped to put it in the same place. And good penalty.
Well, again, I said to Ashley, who I was watching the game with at the time, I says, Stannis doesn't miss penalty, one of the best penalty takers on the planet, both men or women's. And then she went and missed, and I was like, oh, oops. And there's a few people being like, wait, she missed, sort of thing, and I was like, well, she didn't, because if I stood on like the penalty spot as well, I'd probably save a penalty by Georgia Stanway. So yeah, I think, and we talked about character before. We talked about the character of the players and kind of the mental aspect of that dressing room. I think that's a bit of evidence of it. When it comes to Georgia Stanway, it would be quite easy for her to miss. And it's interesting for her not to take it. Sorry, it's quite interesting going back to, I remember a game ages ago, and it's got no relevance to this whatsoever, but it kind of has in some way. I'm a Sunderland fan, as people know, and we played Burnley in 2008. And if we won, we basically got promoted. We went 2-1 down. We were 1-0 up. Then we missed a penalty. Then we went 1-1 and then 2-1 down. And then we got a second penalty with about 20 minutes or so to go. And obviously at that point, you're thinking, well, is the guy who's missed the penalty going to take the same penalty? As it was, he did. He stepped up. And the fact that he scored it, the fact that he had the confidence to do it, the fact that he had kind of the ballsiness to do it, essentially turned the game in our favour. We went on 1-3-2. We got promoted, yada, yada, yada. Roy Keane was the manager for the bit of Manchester United thing that's in there as well. But I think it's quite a big thing for Georgia Stanway to step up and take it, because if she hadn't done it, which would have been completely understandable, the next penalty that comes along, if that's in the semi-final, does Stanway take it? Now, if we get a penalty in the semi-final and it's our next penalty or the final, you're going to go, well, fair enough. Like, let Stanway take it. It's fine. It's no problem. I think if she hadn't taken it, you suddenly have that element of doubt in your mind, and I don't think that's the mentality of the players that are in that squad. So if I'm searching for positives from a really unconvincing win, yeah, massive credit to Georgia Stanway for taking it, and I think that'll be a big mindset shift for the team, and on top of that, her individually as well. And I think she's a great player. I think Stanway is massively important. I think she's hugely underrated as a player, and also as a person. When you hear her speak, she's got a real elite mentality, which aids a lot of what she's enjoying at the moment in terms of success on the pitch.
Yeah, I just watched the Japan game beforehand, and the exact same thing had happened. Keeper off a line, saved the first one, same player took the second one, rolled it bottom corner, lovely, like, job done, goal. So I was pretty confident with Stanway. I also think Stanway's a good enough penalty taker. I think if you do a good penalty, it's going in regardless of what the keeper does. Like, bury it bottom corner, bury it top corner. I don't think it's savable. I think a lot of Stanway penalties are like that, and I thought, she has absolutely the capability to just bury this. I thought the first one was pretty poor. It wasn't I thought it was quite wide, and I think that's where the coming off the line really helped. But it was at a very savable height in terms of middle of the goal. I've seen way better Stanway penalties. I was just about to say, oh, Stanway doesn't miss, and I stopped myself because I was like, I'm going to jinx if I say that. But obviously, too many people have said that, and it was already jinxed. But yeah, I think it wasn't saved if she hadn't come off our line, so I'm not too fussed with that.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? I think it's two good penalties, as I said. I think, but as Graham, you said, if you keep us that far off your line, you're more than likely going to save it, which is why that rule's there. And obviously, it gets retaken and so on as well. That's an interesting thing. Penalties are duels. Psychology always wins. Yeah,
absolutely, 100%. We talked about that today. And you look at Mary Earps, her mentality on a penalty. Jordan Pickford's mentality on a penalty. I mean, they both play for England, which stereotypically lose penalty shootouts. Mary Earps and Jordan Pickford have both won one with England. And then you look at the most obvious one, which is Emiliano Martinez for Argentina. When he saves a penalty, he literally gives it the absolute big one. And you can see the next player stepping up going, oh, God, I'm going to miss this. And it happened in the World Cup final, and he did it on the biggest stage, I think. On the flip side of that, I think that's massive for England. I think we will get a penalty shootout with England in this tournament. And I think it's going to be massive how big Mary Earps is with that. I love her all, that she does, the kind of making herself bigger, and just puffing her chest out. But I think on the flip side, you're totally right with Stanway. Psychology, 100%. And I think her psychology will now be yeah, I missed one, even though she technically didn't. But I stepped up and did it again, put it in the same corner and, scored. Suddenly Georgia Stanway, the ego is restored, if you know what I mean. There's always an ego with goal scorers and footballers. There's got to be. And if she was hurt by the fact she missed it, she's replaced it like that in seconds and actually built herself bigger, which is a huge positive. Probably that we'll see later on in the tournament, I think, where the impact of that will come in.
No, 100% on that one. There's a couple of kind of questions, it kind of leads into the next bit I wanted to speak about, which obviously is the subs. We know Serena, as we said from the start, very consistent in picking an 11 and very consistent with the subs we saw last summer. It was pretty much the same subs at the same minute, no matter what was happening in the game. And it seems like we're going to see it, over the last couple of weeks with England and obviously the first game, it seems that we're going to follow a similar trend. And it kind of ties into what we were saying earlier, because, Andrew's saying here particularly about Tunis form being poor for 18 months or so. There was another comment again mentioning Walsh, and I can't find it now. There's been a lot of comments since that one. I can't remember who put it either. But there was another comment about Tunis poor performance as well. But she actually played the 90, obviously the first sub, James, coming on. But it wasn't for Toon, which obviously I think people expected it to be for. So, Mia, for yourself, were you happy with the subs that came on at the right? Were they at the right time for you? Were they for the right kind of players that came off? What do you kind of make on those? Because we know Serena very much likes to have those set subs for set times of the game.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think Lauren James made the game more attacking. I think Laura said earlier that she's one of those players that you bring on as a sub. I don't think she can start a game. I'd also argue Chloe Kelly is one of those people. I think it took her a while to get into the game, and then when she did, she was great, and she was fantastic with her crosses and stuff today. But Serena is stubborn in the way that she likes to play the game how she's planned it out, and will only make changes. I think the only change, tactically, that I'd picked up on was that Kelly and Hemp switched sides at some point. That was the only change that I noticed. So in terms of substitutions, I think when you look at our bench, and you can bring players like that on, fab. I think she could have put Lauren James on a bit earlier. 1-0's hard because you're ahead, but you're also, if you concede, then you're back to the beginning again, and you need to get that second goal, and then 2-0 you can relax a little bit. And I felt that sort of pressure the whole game. But no, I do think that her substitutions were good, and she can make those good substitutions because we've got those kind of people on the bench. But just I think her timing was a bit strange. I think she could have been introduced a bit earlier.
Yeah, Laura, throw it over to yourself as well. Do you think they were because Toon is the one that I'm questioning here. Obviously, she's the one that played the 90. Hemp and Russo were the two that came off in the end for Daly and for James. Were you a little bit surprised by that? Because I think when a lot of fans saw James warming up, we were like, right, okay, Toon is likely going to come off here, and it's going to be what we'd expect. But it wasn't. It was Hemp that then came off, and Toon did play the full 90 again, it seems. So were you a little bit surprised by that? And do you think that's going to be a theme moving forward into these games, or can you see it kind of switching up a little bit?
Yes, this was my worry, because I think this is where my shout for Knobs came in, because I think so last year the subs were like Toon on for Kirby, Russo on for Ellen White, and then you usually had Kelly coming on for Beth Mead, and you had subs both within the wingers and in that number 10 position. But I don't think we have the experience on the bench to do that again. I don't see a convincing winger if James comes on at number 10. I don't see it. I personally wouldn't feel completely confident. I also think subs are meant to be at least maintaining the level, should be an improvement at that point in the game, fresh legs. And I don't think I see options on our bench where it's that's definitely an improvement on that wing if it's not using Lauren James. And this has been my worry coming into the tournament as well. I think everyone's saying, we have so much depth up front, but I think it's purely in that striker position. And I think we don't have the experience on the wings that I'd like across that whole middle three. So yeah, I think that's a dilemma for Serena Wiegman, because I think she wants to make the changes on the wings, because I think adding something different to attack the fullbacks is kind of what she wants to do. Take Hemp off, add that pace, take Kelly off, whichever one it is, you swap them, you do what you want in terms of cutting in. And I think it's nice that Lauren James has that capacity, if we play her on the right, to cut in a bit more and give Lucy Bronze more ability to overlap, which is what Bronze loves to do. But I did think we needed a change with Ella Toon today. I think she should have replaced Ella Toon, and that's where my fear is, that we just don't have those players to do that. I think we have great options up front, but further back it feels like we only have the one sub in that three. So where does that like impetus come on later in the game if we're only making one sub across that line instead of the two that really made a difference last year?
Yeah, I mean, Graham, kind of a couple of points to pick up on there. Obviously, TJ saying it seems like bringing two less young as a sub is better than for starters, and he's put there. I said it. Obviously, we debated this last summer. It's like, oh well, they should be starting because they're playing well. Well, obviously, there was that conversation. Ross saying here, about Russo can play right wing, but then Serena has to use Beth England, and she clearly doesn't want to. Daly could play there as well. And Andrew just kind of backing up what Laura said there. Laura's right. The strong squad is nowhere near as strong as the Euros. There's a lot of holes in it all over. Do you think the subs were right today? Were you surprised about kind of, I guess, where they were? Because I can't get my head around the two more. I don't, you've mentioned that you think she obviously looks pretty tired. Well, if we can see that, I mean, clearly, the reason why I'd counter it is clearly she's saying something that she's fine, because you'd think she'd be brought off in games if she was actually that tired. So I don't know. For me, it was just a surprise. But do you agree that maybe we just don't have the players that can go there that we did last summer?
Yeah. It's kind of the sad answer, unfortunately. I think Ella Toon for Fran Kirby is a decent sub. She's like a younger version of, not quite as experienced, but has a bit more zip in terms of pace and whatnot, and sort of youthful exuberance, whereas Fran Kirby's the kind of established creative player in the number 10 that's won almost everything in the game that you can rely on. Your replacement this time isn't even a direct replacement. You can put Lauren James in the 10, but she's got as much or as little, less experience in Ella Toon, but not much less. And Ella Toon's not got much more, if that makes sense. She doesn't play as a 10. She's not a 10 for me. She's more of a wing player. She's at the right or the left. Jordan Nobbs is an option, but is Jordan Nobbs a number 10? No, probably not. As much as I like Jordan Nobbs, she is probably an 8. I'd personally be all right with her in the 10, but I think she's probably more of an 8. Can you move Georgia Stanway into the 10 and then bring Jordan Nobbs or Laura Coombs into midfield or whatnot? Maybe, but it's still not as strong as Ella Toon for Fran Kirby, 20 minutes from the end. And I think Ellen White's goal scoring record and what Ellen White gives you is just, for me, not quite the same level, but like Ellen White always reminded me of like the Harry Kane of the women's team of the Lionesses, if that made sense, because she gives you so much effort and she's just experienced and wily enough to, like, even though she was like, we didn't know at the time approaching retirement, but like she obviously was 32, 33 in the Euros last year. She's clever enough to kind of like fill in the spaces where the defense feel a bit more hemmed in. And then you bring on Russo, and Russo's like a battering ram and she just batters you. So you've been absolutely knackered from being chased down consistently by Ellen White. And then Russo comes on and is like, right, I'm trying to knock you all over the shop because I'm much bigger than you and I'm much stronger than you. I don't think that's quite the same with Rachel Daly and LSU Russo and Beth England. As much as it's a really good set of options, it's not quite the same. There'll be different ways and different things you can do with that and different ways you can look at it. But on the basics of Ellen White's going to run you ragged, just chasing you everywhere and closing you down, and she's going to be picking the space in the box. This is actually a younger, exuberant, massive version of a woman that's going to knock you like all over the shop. I don't think a lot of people give Russo praise last year, but I don't think people realized how much Ellen White's work rate helped Alessia when she came off the last 20, 30 minutes. The defenders were shattered. And you could see it in the Spain game because Ellen White just chased and chased and chased and chased. And you can't really keep your eye off Ellen White in the Euros last year because she's quite clinical. Well, she was very clinical. You bring on Russo, it's a different option entirely. And you're already like mentally drained and you've got this fresh, young, exuberant, massive centre forward that's just pace and power in Russo. And your other substitute would have been Chloe Kelly would often come on for Beth Mead. Well, I'm not saying she's the best player in terms of talent. I do think Beth Mead, in terms of importance to England, is our most important player. Say it best if you want. I don't really care. But I think she's most important. And I think Beth Mead's a massive miss. But I think it's probably the closest you've got is, you've got Chloe Kelly comes out for Lauren James, for example. That's like, it's not a bad option to have. But what does Chloe Kelly not have that Beth Mead does? World Cup experience, years of experience. and she's slightly better. I know that's quite harsh on Chloe Kelly because Chloe Kelly's a great player. I think her crossing today was really good. I think it was one of the good things that was on show today. But Beth Mead's such a good player. She was second in the Ballon d'Or last season for a reason. Yeah, we're naturally weaker, and we're talking about those players. But what about Jill Scott? Like, I'm very biased, right? Because I'm from the same city, the same town, in the same area as Jill Scott. But like, last year was at the final against Germany, and Germany are a hell of a side even without Pop, and that midfield's a fantastic midfield. But she came on and just noised them up. She just noised them up, used her experience, got her body in the way, kind of was like, no, I'm having the ball, did the whole F you nasty, horrible midfielder. And that's just her experience. And it's almost stuff that she wouldn't have consciously done, Jill Scott. It's stuff that you just have. And we don't really have that, to be honest. Like, which is why I didn't think England would win this tournament. And I know I've tried to be positive before, now I'm going negative, but just bear with it. I don't think we're going to win this tournament. I just don't. I think the tournaments that come after this, the World Cup that comes after this, is probably more of a likely opportunity because these players are going to have that experience under the belt. It's a real shame the likes of like Beth Mead are not in it, because Beth Mead is someone who has that World Cup experience. And I know she's not everyone's flavour of the month, but if I'm honest with you, I would have took Nikita Paris as well for that reason. I don't think she had a bad season. I don't think she had a bad season at Man United at all. I think she looked much more at home. I interviewed her about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago or something, like a month back. And I thought she might have been in quite like down spirits about it, but she seems to be really, really happy. She understands, she didn't get picked. That's the way it is. She's still going to support England. She says, I'm really happy. She likes playing under Mark Skinner. She likes being at Manchester United. Like, she seemed happy, bubbly. And I know she's like that anyway, but she genuinely seemed happy. And for me, I'm not saying Katie Robinson is not a future England player. I don't know if I rate her as highly as some other people. And I'm not saying I know more than Serena Riegman, because trust me, I do not. But for me, when you're talking about experience in the squad, Nikita Paris, yes, would have been over Robinson 100%, because experience in a World Cup, experience of scoring in a World Cup, experience of being hurt at a World Cup and losing in a massive, massive game. And I also would have took Steph Houghton ahead of Esme Morgan.
Oh, you were doing so well until that last one, and I completely disagree.
But experience, 100%. I mean, you need more experience in that team. Like, we're talking about like players who don't have experience. I'm not saying I would have picked Steph Houghton and put her in the squad, in the team. Sorry, I don't think I would have done. I think I would have still gone Greenwood and Millie Bright, and then maybe Niamh Charles or Carter at left back. But you've got an England captain there with over 100 odd caps. That's a pretty solid season for like a decent team. I know Man City haven't had the best season now, but they're still a decent team no matter what you think. You've got two players there you could have put her experience in, and it would have just added so much to that dressing room. That is missing at the moment. It is missing from it. I mean, you look through that team, look at the starting 11. Mary Earps' first World Cup, but to be fair, she's got experience of being at a World Cup. It was her first World Cup, her first appearance at World Cup, but she has got experience of being at a World Cup, I suppose. Lucy Bronze, yeah, that's fine. Millie Bright, yeah, that's fine. But then you scatter through the rest of the team. There's a lot of players there that don't have that World Cup experience. Steph Houghton gives you a bit of experience. Nikita Paris even gets you a bit of experience. I just think stuff like that is beneficial in the dressing room because we've lost so much of it. But forget everything I said, because trust in Serena. She's won a lot more than I have in football, and I'm just a stupid journalist that just writes about it.
I agree with everything you said until you Steph shout, because I hear what you're saying, but I just think you don't need the whole squad stacked with experience. That was the whole argument for putting Letitia in. Obviously, the best season she's had.
I would have took both. Seriously, I would have took both. Like, no problem with that whatsoever. I would have took both. For me, Steph, we've lost so much experience. Fran, Ellen, Jill, Beth, there's 4 players, and there's not 4 players worth of experience that have gone back in. I'm a big Steph fan. I know this is the wrong thing on a Man United channel, but I'm from Sunderland. She started at Sunderland. She's named after a place near Sunderland. Not Steph, Houghton, for the record. But on a serious note, I just think we do look like we might be missing a bit of experience. But prove me wrong. You know what? I hope that you're going to win it all with players who don't have that much experience at World Cup. Fingers crossed.
We'll see how it goes, that's for sure. Flipping it back to a positive, I'll come to the player of the match poll in a second, so if you haven't voted, make sure you vote on that, although, to be honest, I never usually say that there's probably not much point because the person who's first is on 91% and they are not getting caught, so I don't think it really matters who you vote for at this point. I'm pretty sure we know who's won it. So speaking of who I think is going to win it, we're going to have to talk about Mary Earps because, I mean, United fans obviously know goalkeeper of the year and all of that, best keeper and everything else. Yeah, some people wouldn't have her in a WSL 11. I mean, that's just unbelievable, right, Mia? Who does that? Disgraceful, that is. But talk to us about Mary. I mean, in particular, that save with her feet towards the end. I mean, that is. I think Jonas Ironveld said it on the punchy afterwards. It's like almost like an ice hockey save. Like when the keepers come out like that, kind of spreading out. It reminds me a lot of Peter Schmeichel for the men's side all those years ago. The way he used to come out, kind of just arms, legs as wide as you can. It just, I mean, yeah, go on, Mia. I'll let you kind of talk to us about how good Mary Earps was, particularly that saves, towards the end of the game.
She is the best goalkeeper on the planet. She's the best goalkeeper on the planet. She's calm. She's got that confidence that Graham was talking about earlier. You can just see every time she catches a ball, she's got it. She's happy with it. She's proud of herself. Man, honestly, I can't stop watching that save. If Haiti put that ball in the back of the net, the game changes. They could go on to win it. Because we need confidence. I don't think we're playing with a lot of confidence at the minute. We've not scored a goal. I think I saw earlier we've not scored a goal in open play in 4 games. I don't know how far that takes us back. That's a long time in terms of international football. If we can see that at that point. That for me, I think that's game over. So she's 100%, and I can't believe Stanway scored a goal, and if that's what we sort of base it off of, player of the match I'm talking about. I don't know. She wasn't our best player today. Mary Earps was our best player today, and that save is for me better than a goal, 100%, because that could have cost us the game.
I mean, Laura throwing it, she said I was fully convinced that was going in because the one with that she saved with her feet I'm on about, because Bright just kind of, I don't really know, not really discussed much about Bright, but she kind of, it was really bizarre. She kind of just looked and players past her, and obviously it's down to Earps to make that save. But I mean, what do you make of her performance? Because again, I mean, somebody in one of the group chats said, that's what she's there for. But it reminded me a lot of the Sweden game in the Euros last year. Maybe not called upon loads in the games, but she has to make those key saves to keep. Because if England go on to draw that game or potentially go on to lose it or whatever, if that ends 1-1 or whatever, obviously we've seen what happened with Denmark. England are in a tough position in the group then. Maybe not to qualify certainly, but to go through as group winners. But yeah, I mean, I could go on about it all day. Obviously, being a United fan, but talk about Earps' performance and what you made of those saves in particular.
Do you know?
Yeah. Well,
sorry,
go for it,
Sorry, go ahead. No, my fault. I was just going to say it really made me laugh when you said someone said before that's a job. I was like, was that Roy Keane?
That was my exact response as well.
That's her job. It is a job, and that's why we like her. Yes, she was great. Carry on, please, Laura.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, with the it's her job argument, you can make that up point, but I think it's underestimated, especially in games like that. As a keeper, you're either not busy or you're quite busy generally in games, but games like today, it's pretty hard, underestimated how hard it is to stay absolutely alert to chances like that. She didn't get many chances, but when she's needed, she's absolutely there. And I mean, I'm from Nottingham, so yeah, just soft spot for Mary Earps, despite being an Arsenal fan. Yeah, I mean, absolutely kept us in it. Great keeper. And you said, I was thinking Schmeichel as well. And also that save from Emmy Martinez in the World Cup final. I mean, I know it's not a World Cup final, but it was very reminiscent of that and had a huge impact on the game, exactly like that save did. I think she's absolutely huge for us. I think her leadership is huge for us. I think there was times in the match where you could absolutely hear her yelling, get out to the defence, and the defence weren't doing anything. I thought her defence looked to shambles. I think there's videos of her resorting to push our players out to make them mark the players. And yeah, please do that, Mary, because they weren't up to it today. And I thought at times she was let down by that defence because they looked absolutely all over the place. And I think that was exactly what happened in the build up to that save. And I think we've said it before and it's going to be said again, but she's going to be absolutely integral to us throughout this tournament, especially if Millie Bright doesn't kind of get into her stride early on. I think she's arguably the key leader on the pitch at the moment, if Millie's kind of just stepping a game up, and I don't think her influence should be underestimated at all.
So I'm pretty sure when we did the Lionesses show, when we said who the MVP for England's going to be, I think all of us did say it was Mary Earps and Kelly. I think were the two names that we said at the time. Obviously, what you're referencing to that, TJ, so there's a video. I've seen that video floating around. Was it Kira Walsh? She just absolutely shoves in the back. It's almost like Get Out. It's like somebody said she's going to have whiplash after that because it was a proper shove to get. But you're right. You know, you've got to have. We said this on the WSL Team of the Season show. You've got to have a good defence to keep clean sheets, but you also need somebody to command that back line, and Earps today was doing that as she does for United as well, because it was needed, particularly the left hand side of the defence and everything else. But Graham, have you got anything to add on Mary Earps' performance and that saves in particular?
Great goalkeeper, great save. I think a lot of the time when you see Mary Earps make these saves, because I have so much confidence in her, I sometimes think like it's not going in. But even that one, I was like, well, that's the bottom corner. But look, I spoke to Mark a few times about Mary, because so often I've been to games where United have just like won 3-4-0 or whatnot, and you're kind of looking for questions and you're thinking, oh God, Mary made a great save at the end. It didn't really matter that if it went in or not, but it was a great save. And he always talks about her being laser focused. And I think this is why Mary does what she does in games where you win 4-5-0 and she pulls off an outstanding save, because when she's not alert, that could quite easily go in and people go, it's all right, it doesn't matter. But when you're in a World Cup and the Haiti players running clean through, I'm going to put it in the bottom corner, and it could turn the entire outlook of the game itself. She's there to make sure she's 100% alert. I agree with everything that's been said pretty much. I think she is the best goalkeeper in the world. I think sort of bar none. She's so alert. She's got such a good mentality. This is going to sound like I'm just talking about people I've interviewed, but I did speak to her prior to the World Cup, Mary, as well. And you know what? Just so chilled out. Like, I was more nervous about the World Cup than she was. She was just like, yeah, I'm confident. Like, do what we do. Like, but at the same time has a real elite mentality of knowing exactly what she's got to do to like win that tournament or go as far as she can in it. 1 year left in the contract to Manchester United. If that doesn't get sorted out soon, it's going to be much, 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 much bigger clubs that come looking for her, because in my opinion, she's untouchable as the best goalkeeper at the moment. I honestly think she is untouchable. I don't think there's an argument. It's no disrespect to Hannah Hampton or Ellie Roebuck. This is more about how much I rate Mary Earps and her presence on the field and her ability to be, as Mark would say, laser focused at all times. If anything happened to Mary Earps, I'd be absolutely crapping myself, because she's just so massive. Like, mentality-wise, performance-wise, like focus-wise, communication with her defense-wise, like her growth over the past few years, I don't think gets spoken about enough. And if you are listening, like, I've never bought a goalkeeper shirt, but I would now. I actually would. And I think you should sell goalkeeper shirts, because if there's a kid somewhere that wants to wear a Mary Earps t-shirt, you're kind of stopping them from doing it. So sell a bloody t-shirt, sort it out.
Yeah, certainly that's a whole talk about a lot of other keepers as well starting to speak about it as well. It's
one question ridiculous. Though. Do you go Merps or do you call her Mazza? What's the preference?
I don't call her either.
Do you not?
To be honest, no, just Mary. I don't know whether Beer or Laura called her any different, but
like a friend, Connor. Just Mary from down the road.
Yeah,
I'm pleased you know her well. I personally prefer Merps, just in case you were wondering.
No, I don't. I mean, Laura May, do you call her? Have you got a nickname that you call her, or what?
Mary Earps at all times. Give her a full title.
I was going to say we're going to need like like Mary Earps OBE or something like that after it, or like she'll get one eventually or something like that.
Can we start campaigning with that? Or
I mean,
Mary Drake Earps or Merps. See, Merps. It just makes sense. It's so like it feels so nice to say. Say it to yourself in your head and then say it out loud, and then remind yourself how nice it feels. Merps.
I've just seen his comment above, which I'm not gonna bring up, but feel free, everyone can give that a read. Yeah, I'll go to the next bit. I kind of wanted to finish off, obviously, not on a negative. I'm going to finish off with player of the match, and obviously we'll explain why. We kind of just done it there in a second. But the backlines were mentioned a lot, and there's an interesting comment a second ago here saying Carter was England's best defender today. I don't know whether you're being sarcastic or whether you're being serious on that one, because well, I don't know. You might be being serious. I'm not too sure. But
that challenge at the end, to be fair, Connor, was great. I do disagree with it because I thought Alex Greenwood was, but it was a really important tackle.
Because I wanted to ask each of you in terms of, are you a little bit worried now we've seen the backline? Bright, somebody made the point earlier. She looks like she hasn't. She looks like a player that hasn't played 4 months, which obviously is factual. She hasn't. She looked a bit all over the place to me. I've got to be honest. Bronze was getting absolutely bullied. Certainly in the second half, was getting pushed off the ball, couldn't catch up to it. She certainly didn't look like the kind of player that we know of her. So, Mia, starting off with yourself, are you a little bit worried about that backline and how easy it was at times to get through, and also just maybe the physicality of it? Because maybe not just the backline, the team defensively seemed to get bullied a lot, kind of off the ball, with the physical side of it.
Definitely. As I said earlier, they're missing that. They're missing Leah Williamson. They're missing that ball playing, push up, can run with the ball, can take a couple of players out of the game. Someone mentioned a lot earlier about Millie Turner, and I can't be on here without talking about her. She is who we need now. Her and Maya Letitia at the back, perfect. Mary Earps behind, sorted. But no, I agree with Graham. I think Alex Greenwood was the best defender today. I think again they needed to swap positions, Greenwood and Carter. I think that would help massively. It'd be interesting to see if she makes any changes to that back line, because we generally do have a fair amount of defenders to sort of play about with. We've got Niamh Charles on the bench. We've got Esme Morgan, who played really well against Portugal. Obviously a bit different now we're at a World Cup, but it would be nice to see her make an appearance at some point. So yeah, I am worried, but I'm also not, in the way that I think that's a really small change, and that's just something that might make it flow a bit better. They're not experienced defenders in the way of it's only Jess Carter actually that's not been to a World Cup, so I can't even say that, but no, I think we'll be okay. I like to think we'll be okay. For the most part, this England backline went to that Euros and won the Euros. Lucy Bronze was there, Alex Greenwood was there, Millie Bright was there. We're only missing Leah Williamson. So I think if we replace her as well as we can, which I think is Alex Greenwood, and then put again either Niamh Charles or Jess Carter out wide, we'll be okay. We'll do okay.
It's certainly an interesting put. I mean, I've only just realised, as I've just went back to check my tweet, what your Twitter at is, because obviously on here you come up as highlight. I've now just realised what your Twitter is, so I'll make sure I follow you back now. Apologies. I wasn't following you back prior to this, so I will do now. But it makes a good point. United, you just mentioned Millie Turner, Letitia gets brought up a lot. United had one of the best defences in the league last season, and we haven't got a single, apart from a single defender in there, even though there was three, if you include Blundell, to choose from in there. Obviously, it's got its reasons. Serena's got her reasons, obviously, with Bronze. As we all know, Bronze's quality. Bright has only just come back again. That's it. It showed because he's pretty shaky. But Laura, for yourself, are you worried, or do you just think again it's kind of first game? One of those things. Obviously, we know that Williamson's obviously out as well, but is there any kind of concern for you? Because I think the physicality side is something that I'd probably look at and think if teams know that they can do that and get away with it, we're probably going to see that a little bit more in this tournament.
I thought we got our tactics wrong a little bit today. I don't know necessarily wrong. I think they were probably designed for Haiti and we won. But I think we committed Bronze forward a lot, which created the gaps with Bright. And I think we were trying to do that with Greenwood as well, but Bronze was staying forward, and then you've got two at the back and you're getting really overexposed. If you send one forward, you have to have the other three back. For me, it's like kind of pivot thing, playing on ropes. But I don't know, I think I might be biased. I'd really like to see Lotte Wubben-Moy, because we talk about players in form, and we talk about how England don't have many at the moment. Lotte Wubben-Moy, end of the season, absolutely a player in form. Say what you like about her ability again in comparison to other players, the way she was playing at the end of the season, the way she was already filling in for Leah Williamson, and I know she was paired with Raffaele, who does the kind of ball carrying stuff, so arguably it's different to pairing her with Millie Bright. But her performance against Wolfsburg in that Champions League semi-final was on another level. Absolutely world-class performance. Whether she's a world-class player, it was a world-class performance. And we're saying, oh, our squad don't look in form. I think she's an informed player, and I think she has an excellent mentality. I think what's really hard is the pairings, and I think that's what we don't have in this squad. I think we've got the players, but I think like Jess Carter and Millie Bright are both excellent players. I just don't think they necessarily work together well. I think Jess Carter is at centre-back because exactly like that tackle at the end of the match, she's great in one-on-one situations. So maybe it made sense for today, but I'd definitely... I don't think she'll play Lotte Wubben-Moy, so I'd put Greenwood and Bright as my centre-back pairing. I don't see how she doesn't go there from the next match, and I imagine that means Jess Carter's going out to left back, and I'd like to see how that kind of plays out because I do think Greenwood would make a difference in the middle. But yeah, I think there was a combination of not the right tactics today. I think we were overcommitting, but I also don't think we'll do that against other teams because I just don't think you approach other matches like we have done against Haiti. And I think, yeah, Bright just settling back into it. I think it's a tough decision because she's the captain, but she's also not started a game in 4 months and you do need to ease her in. But arguably, is Serena going, well, this is a match against Haiti, I can probably get away with starting her and giving those minutes that she actually needs. And I don't think, again, like it's one of those things where, yeah, maybe it is just that Serena. I mean, it's so easy. It's such a cop-out to say, but I do.
No, that's fair. A couple of people agreeing with you, a couple of people disagree. So I'll kind of throw this over to Graham for kind of the final point on this on the back line. In response to that, saying, I don't think Greenwood should play with Bright. Carter is better. You can't put two centre backs together. Do you kind of agree with that? Obviously, Lotte has just been mentioned there. What would you kind of do moving forward, or are you pretty confident that back four is good enough to kind of progress forward into the next couple of games at least?
To answer the question of the last post, that you can't play Millie Bright and Alex Greenwood together, no, I disagree with that. They've played together before, both world-class players. It's fine. Like, I don't think Greenwood's slow either. Talking about experience before as well, that gives your backline a massive amount of experience. And I think Alex Greenwood, if Leah Williamson's not fit, is your best ball-playing centre-half. I think you got to keep Millie Bright there. I thought she was borderline awful today, if I'm honest with you, but there's like so many caveats to that. Like, do you know what I mean? If I'd been away from work for like 4 months, my first story back would probably be pretty rubbish, if I'm honest.
And it's like what TJ's saying here. You can't just throw her in, in the knockouts.
No.
If you're going to play it to get match fitness, it's got to be now if you're going to take that gamble.
It's like the person begging for experience and being told they're too inexperienced. How else do they get it? Do you know what I mean? You got to play Millie Bright. She's our best centre half. If Leah Williamson's not there, I think arguably the best one, even if Leah Williamson is there. For me, Greenwood comes in to your left centre back position. Where I would have potentially much preferred it, and I know we've gone over this, but if you're taking Maya Letitia, I think I don't just think she shouldn't have been in the squad. She should have been in the squad. I think she had an argument for being in the first team. Like, I know obviously you're moving her then to the left-hand side and she's right-footed, or you move Millie Bright to the right-hand side and she's left-footed, but I think you could have even had like a Lucy Bronze, May Letitia, Millie Bright, Alex Greenwood across the back, and I think that looks pretty healthy. But I suppose you are losing experience, May Letitia, just to give devil's advocate, yada, yada, yada. But she's not there, so, we can't whinge about it. It is what it is. For me, you've got to put Greenwood alongside Millie Bright. I don't understand Jess Carter at centre half today. No, not for me. I really like Jess Carter. I just don't think she's the right replacement for Leah Williamson. I think the closest you get is Alice Greenwood, although I do prefer Leah Williamson for a couple of reasons. So there you got your left back. I know she's not everyone's flavour of the month, but I've always really liked Niamh Charles. I've also just been comfortable. She's got speed. She's versatile. Like, she never looks like out of place in a team that's, winning all the big trophies outside of the Champions League and winning anything domestically. Emma Hayes trusts her. I would go Niamh Charles, if I'm honest with you. I'd have Niamh Charles at left back, and I'd put Greenwood back into centre back, and that's really harsh on Jess Carter because Jess Carter is so consistent, and she put in such a game-winning tackle today near the end. But like, it's just an opinion. Like, it doesn't mean I hate Jess Carter or like I'm right. It's just I just think Niamh Charles would be better at left back, and I think you need to play Alex in the centre because she's the closest you get to Leah Williamson.
No Rachel Daly at left back shouts then. We're not going down that route again, are we?
I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I hate Rachel. Moving headphones for that. Whoops. I hate Rachel Daly slander. But like, do you remember that game against Spain? Like, I was almost on my knees in tears because she got destroyed, and I was just like, she's not a left back, man. I went more and more like Mackham like throughout the match. Like, it was just like, you can't play a left back, man, mate. Come on, like, she's not a left back, man. She's a forward. I think Rachel Daly actually can fill in okay at left back, but all I'm going to say, and I can say this on the United channel, if Phil Neville thinks you're a good left back and he was the one with the original idea, it's probably wrong. Because I have not forgiven Phil Neville for that tackle on the Romanian fella in the World Cup. Idiot. No, the Euros, Euro 2020. Idiot. He's not left back.
Didn't he start putting Frank Kirby out of position as well? So.
Oh, Philip Neville. It was a time, wasn't it? It was a time.
he was a coach, all right. One of. So I did end the player of the match poll a bit earlier. It's no surprise who won. That is actually the biggest margin we've ever had on this channel. Obviously, it's a little bit easier, I guess, when we do United ones. Obviously, we're picking between 4 United players on the United channel. Obviously, there was only 1 United player on this. So maybe skewed a little bit by the fact that majority of our audience probably United fans. But Mary Earps won it with 91%, which is, like I said, just a massive margin. Stanway and Kelly on 4, and Greenwood didn't get a single vote, which again, being on the United channel, I'm not really surprised. She would have had to have been absolutely exceptional to get anywhere near any of the others on that one. But just very quickly around the house, well, there isn't a disagreement after what you've all said about her, but yeah, pretty. You're all kind of shaking your head or nodding your head. So I'm just going to take that as an agreement that we've come to the right decision on that one. Before we wrap up then, just kind of your quick score prediction for the next Lioness game. It's Friday morning, I believe, isn't it? 9:30. I think it's a bit of an earlier one. Is it 9:30? Or have I just made that up?
I think it's Wednesday. Is it Wednesday?
Is it?
No, it's Friday. You're right, it's Friday. No,
when is it?
9 o'clock, I think it is on Friday morning.
I'll find out.
It is 9:30. It is 9:30.
I have Google.
I've got
9:30 on Friday. Yes.
Yeah, there it is. So, what's your kind of score predictions for that one? Obviously, this is probably the toughest game of the group, but judging by earlier, I don't think China are going to be much of a walkover either. But I'll come to each of Mia. Start with yourself. What's your score prediction for that one?
Oh, I want to be positive. And to be fair, I think Denmark played almost an identical game to how we played today. I think they didn't play great. They got the win in the end. But I want us to win, so I'm going to say 1-0. That's what I'm going to say. 1-0 to England.
I mean, High Lane saying no, I'd love suddenly another 8-0 to follow the 1-0. I mean, yeah, potentially. Laura?
Yeah, I was torn between... I think I'm going to go 2-0. I was torn between 2-1 and 2-0. I don't think... I don't know. I don't trust our defence massively, but I also don't think Serena sides concede that much. And I think Denmark... I think 2, because I think Denmark play... I mean, Haiti played a low block. They were in their own half for the majority of the game, really hard to break down. I think Denmark will be more attacking. And I think we'll have potentially more chances, whether our strikers can score them. So yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 and be optimistic.
Graham?
8-0. No, oh, you know what? I actually have thought about this a bit, right? as I said before, I absolutely nailed almost to the T what would happen in the other game. So I'm feeling like super confident and like I know what I'm speaking about. So I've thought in depth. I think it sounds silly, but I think it's an easier game for England because of the way that we play, which sounds a bit mad because obviously Pernille Harder's one of the best players in the world. Denmark are ranked higher. It's not their first World Cup. They've got far superior players on paper. But I just think what Haiti bring, what they brought, the meaning of the game to them as a nation and to them as a team, they were always likely to be sticky opposition today. I mean, Demonnier is outstanding. Like she was unbelievable today. There was no better player on the pitch than her. And it's her first World Cup, and she wants to kind of show what she's like on the pitch. And all of her teammates will be looking to her, and she played well, and they'll be responding to her. They didn't concede in the first sort of 20 minutes. There was loads of reasons why today's game was a bit sticky, and I think I was probably the least surprised person because of that. For me, with Denmark, you're expecting a tougher game because you know some more of the players, because you know that they've been in more World Cups, because you know it's not their first World Cup, because you know they've won their first game. I don't think... I mean, there's a lot of chat about the physicality of Haiti. We fouled more today. We got more yellow cards and all that kind of stuff. But I think that came down to the fact that we were trying to like get stuck in a bit more because we were getting overpowered. But I also think the runs that the players from Haiti were making were really intelligent as well. Like the runs that Demonnier was making was outstanding. Like it wasn't just about physicality today. They were really intelligent in the way they played the game. But I think Denmark is just a bit of a different opposition. I don't think they'll come at us as much as Haiti did. I thought Haiti came at us, and fair play to them for doing that. I think Denmark will have more of a tactical way to come at us in terms of, I think they'll sit back and try and get Pernille Harder on the ball. And I think it'll be a bit easier for us to pick that apart. I think what Haiti offered today was energy, pace, power, strength, intelligence with their runs, intelligence with their breaks, very good in the transition. And I think that's quite difficult for our team and our squad of players that we have to play against. I think you potentially seen some big weak links and ways to beat us today. I think with Denmark, they don't offer the same. I don't think they're as good in transition, or don't think they will be as good in transition. I don't think they have that pace and the power, and I don't think they play with the same level of energy as Haiti did today. I think it'll be more of a game of who's better in terms of the individuals, and I think England are better. I think we'll be able to play our game a little bit more, so therefore, the original question you asked was what was the score going to be? So I'll just tell you that instead of rambling. 2-0. I think 2-0.
Yeah, I think that's about fair. I maybe wouldn't have been as confident, and then watching Denmark a bit later in the afternoon, I was like, yeah, these aren't looking that good either. So
I've never been that impressed with Denmark. I think they rely a lot on Pernille Harder, and you would, she's world class. But like, imagine us just like relying on, I don't know.
Don't you dare say Russo.
I was tempted, but like just say you're relying on Lauren Hemp all the time and you're giving the ball Lauren Hemp. Like, she can't run 40 yards every time. Like, Pernille Harder's good, she'll run 30, but if you're asking her to run 40 yards every single time and then create or score, it's a lot to ask.
Yeah, it's certainly. It's going to be a good game anyway, I hope, because the tournament needs a little bit of a lift. There's been a couple of good games. It's unfortunately for those who are in the kind of European time zone, all of the really good games have been at the early hours of the morning where most people can't watch it or don't want to get up at those times. It was a bit frustrating. What's this coming here? Obviously talking about Tooney there. We did cover that in much earlier in the show, so make sure if you just joined the show, make sure you go and rewatch that bit. It was about 30-40 minutes in. We discussed a little bit about that as well. We'll wrap it up there. We're going to be back on Monday. We'll be discussing the World Cup in more general terms, talking about all the other teams, all the other games, and so on. I'll come to each of you to kind of shout out what you want to shout out while you're here, because I know that you're all doing different stuff for the World Cup and everything else. So, Mia, for yourself, where can people? Obviously, your Twitter is on screen, but do you want to shout out your dog as well? Why not while you're here? Because
I don't want to wreck people's ear holes, but the dog is quite loud right now. But yeah, it's not there.
Right, okay, make sure you're following that. I'll put the links in the description anyway, so it's easier to find. Laura, for yourself?
Yeah, it's just the Twitter. Everything will be on there, pretty much.
And Graham, where can people find? Obviously, your stuff, your articles, things like that, if they're not already following you.
Yeah, they can't follow me anymore. Like, I'm not caring. I don't care. Don't follow me. Leave me alone. No, it's at Graham Falk, just my name. And if I make an opinion about a player that they're very good, please don't come at me. It's just my opinion. It's literally my page where I place opinions. Like, I'm not criticizing any of your favorite players. I'm not saying I hate anyone. I'm not saying anyone's rubbish. I'm just sharing an opinion. But on a serious note, no, like, if you want to follow like some of the stuff that I'm writing, I'm mainly writing for National World and the Scotsman, for women's football stuff and Manchester World. If people want to follow stuff in there, it's always really appreciated, because the more you read it, the better it makes me feel, and it makes me feel like I'm doing the right stuff. And if there's anything you don't like, just tell me. I'll listen to it and implement the changes if I think they are so worthy. But yeah, don't follow me if you don't want to. It's fine, it doesn't matter.
Make sure you check in all these three out. Anyway, you'll probably see more of these guys over the next kind of few weeks as we do more World Cup-y stuff, that's for sure. Obviously, we're still waiting for a certain Emma Watson to sign. We're still waiting for the official announcement from United. I'm not even joking. The show is uploaded to YouTube. You just can't see it yet. We're waiting for that to become official. Then you'll be able to watch that show that has already been recorded on her.
I like can you call the title of the show World Cup-y stuff?
I was gonna say, well, Monday I might call it that. We'll just call it the World Cup-y stuff show or something like that. So
World Cup-y stuff. Oh, what are you doing? Just World Cup-y stuff.
So Monday at 7, we'll be live with. I don't even know who's on it yet, but we'll be live at Monday at 7 anyway, talking about the other games and the talking points around those. So a lot to discuss there. What's this? I don't know the answer to that question. I've got to be honest. Graham's probably, or somebody else is more astute on that one for Emma. I'm assuming that's in relation to Emma Watson anyway. I don't think it is the case though.
I don't know. I think she's 18 in January, but I assume there'll be some sort of deal put in place. If she doesn't sign for Man United, I'll sell you my house. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's happening and done. There's nothing to worry about there. So yeah, that video will be out then. Obviously, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and follow the Twitter account if you're not already, and if you can find it at All for United. And we shall see you guys in the next one.